Today, I wanted to do a kind of personal episode. I've done this before. And in the midst of that, I wanted to share the opening pages of my latest novel, Shadows of Absaroka. You can see it's a different setup than usual. I'm in my bedroom, much closer to the microphone. That's because I hope that the recording that I make is good enough to be a professional recording. So you'll actually watch me reading the opening pages that will end up on the formal audio. As I say, I did a personal episode early on this channel where I discussed my conversion, my antics as a teenager wearing a self-made Bigfoot costume and scaring the tourists near the east gate of Yellowstone National Park. I also discussed and I guess advertised the release of my revised and enhanced second edition of Tennis Shoes Among the Nephites, book one in the Tennis Shoes Adventure series, which I have now released with a gorgeous new cover and also for the first time as an unabridged audiobook that you can now get on Amazon Audible or directly from me by ordering it on 10 CDs. Commercial over, but I'll put the link in the comments below. I thought it'd be fun to take you on a journey, talk about my experience, my adventure, creating a small YouTube channel that is also pro Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is my 18th episode, and what a roller coaster. I'm a one-man band, no professional editors. I don't hire professional anyone. I gotta do everything myself to bring this off. And the learning curve is crazy, but now I have questions I wanted to ask anyone who views this episode. And I sincerely hope that you will, in the comments, help me understand these subtleties, the ins and outs of what I've experienced, because on a number of fronts, I am baffled, totally confused by some of the things, some of the numbers associated with the algorithms of various social media platforms, particularly YouTube, but not just. Or even if after I lay this out, you're still as confused as me, that's okay too. If nothing else, it's entertaining. Let's explore the whole process of creating a YouTube channel, good, bad, and ugly, including some mysteries that boggle the mind. Let me preface this by saying I would not have undertaken the headache of pursuing another podcast at all if it wasn't for Nathan William, who supplied me with a user-friendly camera and microphone and full access to his website, app.podup.com. This made it easier, with a few hitches, to tape my content and then upload various shorts and reels that I created from those episodes to 5 or 6 social media platforms, including YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, as well as a new personal website, chrisheimerdinger.me. This is where it gets weird and fascinating. Experienced content creators might find this stuff run-of-the-mill, but I am blown away and scratching my head. Most people know, or if you don't, you're about to know, that to become monetized on YouTube, a channel needs 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours in a calendar year. Now, I already had over 1,500 subscribers left over from my days producing Revelation Now for an LDS nonprofit. But enough time had elapsed where I was essentially starting over as far as 4,000 watch hours. My first episode did great, discussing Joseph Smith's little-known revelation to comfort the 3 witnesses of the Book of Mormon, telling them that the earth would speak and that evidences of high civilization in the New World would start coming forth shortly after the Book of Mormon's publication. Got more than 5,000 views and racked up 700 watch hours. So, hey, I was already 1/5 of the way to monetization. Now, let me remind viewers, I don't expect the Chris Heimerdinger Channel to pay my bills. I'd just like it to pay for itself because it's expensive and demands a lot of time. So 1/5 of the way with one episode. Yeah, that seemed like it was going along pretty good. Later, I learned that YouTube might have spiked my first episode in almost 2 years, pushed it out there aggressively as a way, perhaps, to entice me to keep producing more content, keep releasing fresh content. Or maybe interest was simply driven by curiosity, the fact that I hadn't posted anything in a while. You never know with these things. The platform loves you to keep guessing. Then my second episode discussing C.S. Lewis and his teachings about deification or godhood bombed. 500 views, less than 50 watch hours. Suddenly, this YouTube thing was seeming like it might not be so easy. Third episode on scribal errors on the Book of Mormon plates, about 1,100 views, double my previous episode, but not the right direction. Now, I'm not doing any research on audience favorability with my chosen topics. I'm just winging it, talking about what fascinates me. I mean, it's always possible that YouTube impressions and watch hours are indeed strictly tied to organic audience interest, and perhaps a little bit on the quality of titles, thumbnails, and the topic itself. But this is where it starts to get wiggy. My fourth episode was the personal episode I mentioned discussing Bigfoot pranks and upcoming novels. Racks up about 100 hours for a 24-minute video. That's not too bad. Better than nothing, but it's certainly nothing to write home about. Then I did my fifth episode, an interview with my friend James Thompson called UFOs, UAPs, and the Gospel of Jesus Christ. To this day, this episode is my most successful, racking up 1,700 watch hours. Suddenly, 5 episodes in, I'm well over halfway to the goal of 4,000 watch hours. My channel seems to be starting to hit its stride. However, my next episode bombs, less than 500 views, under 50 watch hours. Maybe the topic just didn't tickle my viewers, but such a massive drop, 1,700 hours down to 40 hours. I mean, something didn't add up. So I did some research. I asked some questions. As it turned out, at least in the hallowed opinion of ChatGPT, my episode discussing UFOs and religion likely got my channel suppressed. Apparently, aliens and religion is one of those verboten topics and likely raised YouTube's hackles. The same way a video about flat earthers might do the same thing. Fringe issues. Too controversial. If one listens to the episode itself, I think it comes off rather reasonable and balanced. But ChatGPT and also Grok, as I recall, seem to believe this interview might have gotten my channel stamped with a red flag that might still be suppressing my channel today. I don't know. I'm just trying to parse all this out. I just know none of my episodes, since the one about UFOs, UAPs, and religion, has generated over 1,300 views. Maybe the content just sucks. Always possible. I think my topics are pretty cool and entertaining as I look across the spectrum of what other creators are discussing, but, what do I know? The truth is, around episode 15, titled Pro LDS Content and Priestcraft, my channel finally cracked 4,000 watch hours and officially monetized. So for 3 weeks now, the Chris Heimerdinger Channel is monetized, and I have earned, wait for it, a whopping total of $13.65. Wow. Impressive, right? Just saying, this podcast is a labor of love. And maybe that's all it will ever be. And that's okay. Now, here's some facts that will scramble your brains. I can't explain this at all. See, I create between 3 and 10 shorts from every full-length episode of the Chris Heimerdinger Channel. As I say, these shorts, reels, are posted on 5 or 6 different platforms. Some of these platforms I don't even check. I don't have time. I have no idea how my 1-minute shorts, reels are doing on Instagram or LinkedIn or even X. I just post these to the platforms that are part of what is offered on the PodUp app. Can't hurt, right, to put them on as many platforms as possible? But of the 3 remaining platforms that I do regularly check, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook, YouTube performs the worst with my shorts. YouTube's algorithms for shorts seems all about timing. Views gathered in the first few minutes after a short is released. I mean, those are critical. Release at the wrong time and your shorts might spike in the first hour and then fade into oblivion. Within a day, it's already dead, never to recover. Other creators might talk about exceptions, but I've never had an exception. That's just the way YouTube works. My shorts on YouTube average around 500 to 1,000 views. Of course, I've consulted ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok, trying to thread the needle and release at the best possible time, but variations aren't that significant. On TikTok, my shorts actually do better, averaging between 1,000 and 2,000 views per, but still not remotely in the same ballpark as other creators, even many pro LDS creators. So here's the mystery. Okay, listen to this. On Facebook, my shorts, I mean, Facebook, of course, calls them reels, but basically the same thing. My reels on Facebook have racked up millions of views, tens of thousands of comments. I can't keep up with it. There's no freaking way. What the heck is going on? How is it that an individual short reel on Facebook racks up hundreds of thousands of views and the very same 1-minute short on YouTube gets 300 views? I don't know. I can't explain it. Some have said, well, Facebook has an older demographic and you're an older dude, so that's it. That explains millions of views versus hundreds of views. Demographics? I'm very skeptical that this fully explains the full situation. Yes, I'm more active personally on Facebook than, say, TikTok. On FB, I have 5,000 friends. On YouTube, currently, I have about 2,500 subscribers. Still, maybe that means on YouTube I ought to get, say, 500,000 views. Nope. It's a disparity that at present I don't understand. And if anyone out there can explain it to me, hey, I'm all ears. I have noticed that my individual Facebook reels are still drawing likes and comments months after I post them, so that's different. On YouTube, a short as well as full episodes, they generally die after a couple days. Views and likes slow to a trickle. Somehow Facebook just has a different kind of algorithm. Keep in mind, 20 to 30% of all those who actually comment, not view, but comment on my episodes and shorts are people who are anti-Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They really seem to hate us, frequently posting long, pre-prepared diatribes against the church. And often these diatribes have nothing to do with the subject matter that's discussed in the episode or the short. Just something they copy and paste every time they see a pro-LDS short or content of any kind, as if it's a calling that they feel compelled to perform. 20 to 30% of the comments on my reels, shorts, and long-form episodes are from antis. That percentage is pretty much standard across all platforms. I always strive to respond with positive energy, wishing someone all of God's greatest blessings. It can be hard because some of them are practiced and vicious, but vinegar never helps. You're not going to change the opinions of these people. I encourage every Latter-day Saint who participates in my comment threads on any platform, please deploy honey, respond with love. Make the comments on my shorts or reels known for that. Yes, I'm sure I can find examples where my reaction wasn't particularly loving, but no more. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to roll over. I mean, you can defend the gospel of Jesus Christ. Just be thoughtful, respond with logic, but most of all, respond with love. And then, of course, they just might double down with more hate. That's okay. Let it slide. Don't worry about it. Remember, this person is a child of God who God loves more than we can possibly imagine. So be disciplined. Do not respond in kind. Nothing would please me more if my comment threads are known for Latter-day Saints whose comments resonate with the love of Jesus Christ. I'd be so grateful if you followed that lead. But back to Facebook. A reel, like a short, is generally 1 minute. I get comments all the time from faithful Latter-day Saints who say, you forgot to mention this, and this, and this. Yes, true, because shorts and reels are just 1 minute segments from a full episode. Frequently, I will say, I mentioned all that in the full episode, and go watch the full episodes. After that, I'd love to hear your insights. But guess what? That does not happen. Nobody, or hardly anybody, ever bounces off a short or a reel and goes off to view the entire episode. I can take 2 seconds at the end of a short, post some kind of advertisement that practically begs people to go watch the full episode on YouTube. You guys just won't do it. You're stubborn, man. It's just not the nature of shorts or reels that viewers will break off to go seek out the full enchilada. Not the nature of the human brain, apparently. Our nature is just to scroll on to the next 1 minute short. Probably time to concede. I'm not going to change the nature of social media users. Personally, I don't really watch that many reels or shorts. Still, I can see how asking someone to stop what they're doing, which is just passing the time, and go watch a full episode is too much work. Not going to happen. It's like pulling teeth. But hey, it's okay if I just keep trying, right? Even if it's just for that one person in 10,000 who might wander over and watch the full episode. I thought about doing a contest. Choose a random user who watches a full episode on YouTube, who likes, subscribes, comments, and throw those names into a hat and then send out a free book. But YouTube and Facebook both have requirements a mile long for contests, even for giveaways as expensive as a free book. So, nope, sorry, can't do a contest. But watch the full episode anyway, and maybe I'll surprise someone. Is it against policy to even say that? Probably. But maybe I'll do it anyway. Watch full episodes, because this stuff is hard. And so I so much appreciate your support. But, I mean, only if you like the content, like what I have to say. Don't bend over backwards. And I got to add, I just found it out while I was putting together the notes for this episode. Facebook does allow me to post full episodes on my Tennis Shoes Warriors fan page. I did not know this. I never think of Facebook as a place to watch long-form videos. I thought that was just YouTube, but apparently it's also Facebook. So take a gander at my Tennis Shoes Warriors fan page if you don't want to search me up on YouTube. That'll work. You might like it. Or you might be bored stiff and say, I'll stick with your 1 minute reels. That's about as long as you can hold my attention. So there you go. The adventures of a small channel trying to come up in the world. After 6 months, I still feel like I'm learning new tricks daily. No such thing as mastering every gimmick, because as soon as I think I've mastered something, all the rules change anyway. Just the nature of the beast. So let me just bear testimony of Christ, bear testimony of the things I care about most. And if one piece of content touches folks more than another, so be it. It's all good. Now, we come to the part where I read the opening of my new novel, Shadows of Absaroka. Notice how, I'm in my bedroom. No fireplace, no paintings. I'm here because the sound is cleaner in here. And if I'm going to read Shadows of Absaroka, got to have the best sound. Because if it's good enough, hey, I'll just use the reading in the official audiobook after I release it on CD and on Amazon Audible. So expect a lot of jump cuts. I'm going to be very picky about this stuff. I'm always very picky about performance. Not uncommon for it to take 10 tries to get a line just right. So jump cut, jump cut, jump cut. And I have to lift up this extra windscreen here because it takes away the hard T's and the hard P's. And that becomes pretty important during the editing process. Okay, I think we're ready. So let's get after it. Shadows of Absaroka by Chris Heimerdinger. Narration by Chris Heimerdinger. July 6th. First sighting at Elk Fork Bridge, 9:36 p.m. These were the brushstrokes of God, painted in the richest hues, sculpted by the ablest of clay-wetted hands, then tempered by the earth's primordial fires. On the left loomed the lofty peaks of the Absaroka Range. To the right stretched the Washakie Wilderness, cleaved down the middle by the North Fork of the Shoshone River, as an endless procession of vehicles navigated U.S. Highway 14 westward toward the east gate of Yellowstone National Park. Easily, thought Garrett Doherty, the most spectacular highway in the world. The master plan had surely existed before God had created it. Too wasteful, too constricting to think this vista hovered in only one dimension. Surely the blueprint was retrieved from a gilded filing cabinet, drafted in some epoch prior to the Big Bang. As twilight deepened, Garrett found it increasingly difficult to appreciate the towering formations above his Nissan Altima. Were these the carvings of water, wind, and tectonic upthrusts? Or were they behemoths of Tolkienian myth? 20 miles more, and he and his son Nathan would arrive at the park. Garrett felt disappointed that in mere moments, such visual delicacies would be wholly veiled by darkness. Garrett hailed from these parts. He spent most of his childhood in the tiny metropolis of Powell, Wyoming, 25 miles east of Cody. Midway through his junior year, his parents had uprooted and moved him to Irvine, California. Still, it was an exhilarating change of venues. Not quite the swimming pools and movie stars of the Beverly Hillbillies, but offering more than its share of amusement parks and shopping malls. At the time, young Garrett had wondered if he'd stumbled into paradise. Ah, glorious California. Funny how the passage of years had a way of reshaping perceptions. Eventually, Garrett had set his roots in Wilsonville, Oregon, where he raised a family and built a life. He'd never found his way back to northern Wyoming. That is, until this very weekend. After attending an expo in St. Louis, he'd driven Interstate 80 to Laramie to retrieve his 18-year-old son, Nathan, who'd recently completed his freshman year at the University of Wyoming. Why not? Garrett had told himself. Why not veer northward a couple hours, wind back the clock, attempt to reconnect with his origins? To his surprise and delight, the majesty of this place somehow struck him far more profoundly than he'd expected. He'd forgotten the raw ruggedness of this region. Oregon certainly boasted its own eye candy, glacier-white peaks and impenetrable forests, but Wyoming was different. Its textures, aromas, its very ambience was like no other place. Ancient, unsullied, chiseled, with fewer but bolder hammer strikes, freeze frames that truly captured nature's primordial violence. Garrett glanced sidelong at his teenage son. Shucks, Nathan was missing it all. Frustration percolated inside Garrett. How could the 6-inch screen of his son's cell phone possibly compete with the grandeur streaming past their windshield? Garrett exclaimed, I hardly recognize it anymore. Nathan stirred, tugging an earbud free. Huh? You say something, Dad? Unplug those, will you? Look at this vista. It's breathtaking. It's all changed. After a theatrical eye roll, Nathan removed the second earbud. Got it. All changed. Breathy vistas. You said that a few miles back, by the way. Dad, headlights would be good here. Thank you, Julia Roberts, said Garrett, recognizing his son's reference to Julia's line from her first big movie hit. He flicked on the high beams, casting twin shafts of silvery light up the highway, wispy with the streaks of flying insects. I swear when I was a kid I fished every bend of this river, Garrett declared, voice thick with nostalgia. Back then, all this was strictly water and wilderness. No houses, no tourist traps, just river, land, and sky. Houses? Nathan scanned the expanse. I haven't seen a ranch or cabin for miles. Well, no, not here. Not since we crossed into the national forest. But that town we passed, Pronghorn City, that patch was nothing but forest and open range when I was your age. Nathan smirked. That trailer park? You call that a town? Garrett shrugged. Well, sure, I mean, not a town by West Coast standards, but yeah. Back then, this was the edge of the world, untouched by human hands or backhoes. No one dared settle here. Probably for good reason, quipped Nathan. What's there to do? I'd die of boredom. Might even strangle myself. He clutched his throat in an over-the-top pantomime. Garrett released a low growl, but refused to allow his son to dampen the mood. He gestured across the river toward a trio of basaltic spires rising like sentinels. 3 prehistoric chieftains immortalized by wind and weather. Those formations! It's like Zion or Moab, but with trees, and every bit of it framed by old-growth forests. Nathan had drifted back to the hypnotic glow of his smartphone. He said mirthlessly, Never been to those places either. Moab and Zion? Sure you have. Back when I was still married to your mom. Maybe you were probably too young to remember. Maui, Nathan offered absently. That was cool. Maui? Garrett puckered his lips in disdain. Hawaii's for wusses, but this, now this! Nathan suddenly stiffened. Dad! 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 His voice rose in a crescendo of panic that made Garrett's hands snap to the wheel. Something had emerged from the woods on the right. A mule deer? No, Nathan's eyes were tracking something else. Something darker. A terrible form. Loped across the highway, 20 yards ahead. Almost, but not quite, blending with the twilight that also revealed the shape of Elk Fork Bridge. Garrett slammed the brakes. The Altima fishtailed, straightened, and slowed. The thing was colliginous black, writhing in fury and fur. What in heaven's name? Nathan's breath hitched. Is that a bear? Garrett shook his head. No way, it walked upright. Sure, a bear might try that, but its other movements were downright un-bear-like. The visage melted into the foliage on the opposite side. Dad, stop! Nathan cried, voice raw. Stop, stop, stop! The Altima, already plodding at less than 10 miles per hour, shuddered to a standstill at the lip of the bridge. They were now a dozen yards beyond the place where the black enigma had re-entered the woods. The engine hummed, low and steady. Father and son sat in stillness, swaddled in a cocoon of awe. The highway in both directions remained a silvery ribbon. After exchanging blinks of astonishment, both Garrett and Nathan felt the same impulse to fling open the car doors and clamber out onto the asphalt. Their gazes locked onto the place where it had vanished. A lone pine bough wobbled despite an absence of wind. Whatever they'd seen, it had penetrated the forest's veil precisely there. Nathan's voice pierced the dusk. What was that? Garrett raised one hand, an unspoken plea for silence. From the depths of the woods came a delicate percussion of snaps and crackles. Can you still see it? Garrett asked. tone hushed, almost reverent. Nathan shook his head. You? Garrett approached the vanishing point, pacing the highway in measured strides. It crossed here, he declared, index finger following the precise course as he recalled it, and went into the trees there. Nathan's eyes combed the landscape, studying the terrain in all directions, including northward, where the various fingers of Elk Fork Creek flowed from beneath Elk Fork Bridge, watering a wide swath of scrubland for several hundred yards before emptying into the Shoshone River. Urgently, Nathan's arm shot out. There! Huh? His son was pointing north, exactly the wrong direction, exactly opposite from the forest edge with the bobbing branch. Nathan fumbled with his smartphone, snapping photos in a flurry. There! See it? See? Garrett did see. A haunting outline barreled northward away from the bridge, crashing through tangles of brush and scrub with reckless abandon. An instant later, it vanished again, this time for good. Confusion whirled in Garrett's mind. What they had just witnessed defied reason. The creature had first emerged from the woods on the right side of the highway, fleeing into the trees on the left. But instead of south, the thing they'd just seen was running northward. Had it doubled back? Or was this northbound shape a different creature entirely? Was it a second one? Nathan ventured, hesitant. Garrett's reply drifted out, foggy, uncertain. I don't know. It was a second one, Nathan felt instantly certain, pointing south with fierce conviction. The first one went into the woods on that side. He swung his arm northward, using the railing of the bridge as ballast, while the fingers of his other hand danced over his camera app. That was another one. A second Bigfoot. Bigfoot, Garrett echoed. He'd intended it as a question, but it landed flat. He tried again. Bigfoot? Of course, this was the very word that pulsed inside him, but Garrett was the adult here. He had to be rational, skeptical. What else could it be? Nathan pressed. Bigfoot! 2 of them! The first one, Garrett's voice was halting, grasping for clarity. It didn't seem that tall. Would a bear run on its hind legs like that? Nathan challenged. Garrett shook his head. No, I mean, a bear will sometimes, but no, it wouldn't move like that. You grew up here. Have you ever? Never, Garrett cut in. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Nathan's fear began to subside, transforming into exhilaration. He swiped through the pics on his phone, each frame exposing an undeniable image. Something inexplicable had indeed crossed their path. A tweak of framing, a nudge of contrast, and Nathan felt certain he could sharpen these photos into irrefutable proofs. His gasps morphed into giddy laughter, bubbling up like a geyser. Bigfoots! Big feet! Sasquatches are supposed to live where we live, aren't they? Have you ever heard of a Sasquatch sighting in Wyoming? Garrett was still processing, trying to process it all, his gaze still peering into the murky brush. What? No, I can't. His words stumbled, caught in a thicket of shock and disbelief. Nathan thrust his triumphant fists toward the Wyoming sky, his frame cutting a dramatic silhouette against the purpling dusk. We saw Bigfoot! Unbelievable! We saw 2! Then, at the top of his voice, I cannot believe it! Echoes, at least 4, reverberated across the expanse of Elk Fork and Shoshone canyons. Oh, Horsey's belly was starting to ache. Not from any pangs of distress, but from the deep rolling laughter he fought mightily to contain. It was all Ephraim horse capture could do, not to cackle so loudly it would drown out the shouts of that doofus teenager on the bridge, pumping his fists and strutting around like Rocky Balboa. What a display of idiocy. There they stood. Two out-of-state yokels from, well, Oregon, according to their license plate, gaping in childlike astonishment, utterly clueless that they had just been the unwitting victims of a carefully orchestrated hoax. 17-year-old Ephraim had been crouching low in the patch of tangled brush for almost 10 minutes, a mere 40 yards behind these Pacific Northwestern numbskulls, recording the whole side-splitting spectacle on his iPhone. He'd even zoomed in on their freaked out faces, though the footage might have been a tad shaky. This Brickberry phone sucked maggots. Who cared? This event was an irrefutable testament to the fact that no one in this wide, woolly world was more blissfully gullible than tourists bound for Yellowstone. Such pale-faced wanderers could now be officially classified as prime-time bobbleheads. Be sweet if the phone's mic had managed to capture some of their dialogue. After their initial shock, the teen's wannabe dad had started waxing philosophical, tossing out grand musings about the mysteries of heaven, earth, and the star-studded Milky Way. This event had also proven that 14-year-old Daniel Muller, the wearer and proprietor of tonight's costume, was right all along. If a wiry nerdlinger like Daniel could cobble together a fur-laden getup convincing enough to flummox these two travelers, what did that say about all those other Sasquatch sightings that littered decades past? Hoaxes all. Probably. Horsey, a voice whispered. Ephraim, who much preferred his nickname, heard rustling from behind. Through the thickening gloom, he spied Daniel slinking up the grassy slope, still clad in his shaggy beast duds. The hood was pulled high, framing Daniel's soft, peach-complected face, an innocent cherub encased in a fearsome fleece. He crouched low, but in Horsey's opinion, not low enough. Shh, stop, Horsey spluttered as loud as he dared. You're making a racket. Hard to lean over in this thing. The hairy hood drooped back over Daniel's eyes. He pushed it up above his forehead for the umpteenth time. Did you get it? Did you get it on video? Oh, yeah, Horsey crooned. Close-ups and everything. Blinking, Daniel peered down the highway at their two marks, still holding a motionless pose on the bridge. Then he furrowed his brow. Is that all they've been doing? Just standing on the bridge, staring off into space? Yep, like two Jimmy Johns, eye in the wilderness, thinking deep thoughts. Horsey's voice dripped with sarcasm, relishing the absurdity. Daniel felt a flicker of unease. Why are they facing north? They saw you. They huh? Horsey shrugged. Your sneaky plan, crossing back under the bridge, didn't fool him. Daniel pondered this, replaying in his mind all the meticulous steps of his backup scheme. Dart southward across the highway, melt into the woods, double back under the shadowy girders of Elk Fork Bridge, and then scamper northward, running like the wind. His plan had seemed airtight. Out with the locals, dodge the tourists. After all, not every soul rumbling down this lonesome stretch of highway was a simple-minded out-of-towner. Plenty were homegrown. And around here, homegrown meant armed to the teeth. Concealed carry permits were as common as belt buckles. And pulling such a stunt in this territory risked more than a garden variety scolding. Given the chance, any flint-eyed rancher would have drawn iron and blasted him into the next century, circling back and escaping under the bridge. That move was supposed to throw off the marks, keep his skull intact. Obviously, it hadn't played out as flawlessly as he'd imagined. They thought there was two of you, Horsey laughed. Daniel didn't react. He mumbled, should have figured it. Should have figured they'd scope out the terrain in all directions. Should have lingered longer under the bridge. Shh! Horsey snapped the side of Daniel's head, the impact cushioned by the folds of the costume's hood. You're obsessing. It went fine. Daniel stewed. He hated it when Horsey thumped him like that. Yet it did have a way of helping Daniel focus. Horsey's right. Things went fine. They went fine. Then Horsey raised his chin. Uh-oh. The chumpsters were trotting back toward their jalopy. Daniel and Horsey flattened more tightly against the loamy earth. Stealth wasn't as critical now. Night had unfurled its inky curtain. Still, caution tethered the two teenagers in place. They listened as driver and passenger doors thudded shut. The Ultima's engine snarled to life. Its tires gnawed at the asphalt, spitting pebbles as it rolled onward toward Yellowstone's East Gate. Its passengers now possessing a tale far more memorable than spouting geysers or a stampede of bison. As the Ultima's taillights bled beyond the highway's curve, both boys sprang to their feet. Ephraim unleashed a laugh that shook the canyons. Daniel tried to work up the same enthusiasm, but his nerves remained coiled like a ball of rattlesnakes. Horsey raised a palm. "High five!" Daniel hesitated. Horsey was still chortling, but insisted again. "I said high five! We earned it!" Daniel complied, mostly missing the older boy's palm. Horsey slapped both of Daniel's shoulders with his gangly arms. "Relax, will you? You did it! It actually worked!" Daniel's heart warmed a little as they scrambled down the slopes, twigs snapping and leaves hissing underfoot. "Yes," he repeated inwardly. "I did it. My costume worked as planned." The rumble of another engine could be heard approaching from the west. The boys hastened their pace, working through the tangled undergrowth, locating the pull-off where Horsey's rickety Mazda 5 minivan awaited them like a faithful old blue tick. Horsey opened the driver's side door. "So stupid," he said as he turned the key. "People are so stupid. They'll swallow anything." Daniel slid onto the passenger seat, his mind still stuck on his previous question, almost like a record scratch. "You got it, right? The video?" "Yes, yes, yes," Horsey stated again, frustrated at Daniel's seeming inability to just revel in the moment. "Didn't you hear what I said? They thought there was two of you, two different monsters. What a pair of dorks." "But you taped it?" Horsey threw back his head. "Oh my gosh. For the third time. Yes. Breathe, Daniel. Don't spaz out on me." He started pressing the buttons on his camera app. Daniel leaned in close. Too close, in Horsey's opinion. "Please," he said theatrically. He raised an elbow to make Daniel back away. "You're taking up my oxygen. Stop obsessing. Can you just stop obsessing?" Easier said than done. Obsessing was Daniel's nature, his curse. "Sorry." Daniel tried, he sincerely tried, to stay calm as Horsey fumbled with his phone. He pressed back into the cracked leather seat, yet his thumb beat a steady rhythm against the dashboard, faster than a ticking clock. "You're doing it again," said Horsey. "The thumb thing? Let me concentrate." Daniel squeezed his fingers into a fist. Horsey raised up the phone a little closer to his face. He cursed. "I hate this app. I never use it." "Let me see it." "No," said Horsey. "I'm there. Here it is." Before playing the footage, he sent Daniel another stern look. "You're sane, right? Tell me you're sane." "I'm sane," Daniel promised. Horsey hit play. His chest continued to vibrate with occasional laughter as the clip played out. As it reached the end, however, Daniel's heart had already plummeted. The image was a shaky, grainy mess. Too dark, possibly unfixable. The thunderous current of the Shoshone River had drowned out every snippet of dialogue, save for the Oregon teen's final piercing yelp. "I cannot believe it!" It was the only line that cut through the chaos, clear and raw. Horsey pretended not to notice Daniel's drooped shoulders. "Pretty cool, eh?" Daniel did not reply. Lighten up," Horsey chided. "Don't act so disappointed. It's time to celebrate. Oh, that costume, Daniel. What a costume. You're a genius. You're a little squirt, but you're a genius. And I might be the only one who knows it. Horsey seemed proud of that, as if Daniel was his own private secret, like a mad genius caged in the back room. Little squirt. Daniel's lip twitched. Not his favorite nickname. Horsey yanked the Mazda into reverse, tires churning up a spray of thick, wet earth. With a lurch, they neatly fled the scene of the crime, leaving the night to nestle in their handiwork. A fresh fable had taken root. Mission accomplished. Okay, there it is. The opening of my new novel, Shadows of Absaroka. I hope you liked it. That's all I got for today. Just remember, if you don't feel as close to the Lord today as you did yesterday, who moved? Now, like, subscribe, comment, all of that other good stuff. And thank you for joining me. This is Chris Heimerdinger. See you next time.